Great.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll kick it off. Keep this rolling.
We were just giggling because I had the hiccups, so apologies if that starts. But we are NextLeft. We're here. My name is Alexa.
I am John.
And we are a digital marketing agency based out of San Diego and Chicago that specializes in SEO, content marketing, and paid media. We are a senior level team that partners with in-house marketing teams to create foolproof digital marketing strategies. Today, we're going to be actually taking you through a live SEO audit, which is pretty exciting because this is all of our clients that come in and are interested in doing SEO, paid, or content marketing with us to give them a sense of what the landscape currently looks like, give them some competitor analysis, and show them how they can win online. So for today's live audit, we did select a brand that we love quite a bit. And we had a few parameters. The first parameter was that it was a brand that was on the Shopify platform. The second is that it was a mega brand. So a household name, or you've at least heard of them to some degree. And the third is that they're committed to social good. At NextLeft, we're currently working on putting together our strategy to make sure that we are both providing a valuable service and contributing social good in the environment and in the world as well. So 3 important parameters. So for today's audit, we are actually going to go ahead and dive into Allbrands, which is a shoe company that sells
Allbirds.
Oh, Allbirds, all brands. We're going to do all the brands.
This is our second round.
Sorry. So we're going to do Allbirds. And a few things I want to touch base on that too. So for the mega brand, the biggest reason why we wanted to look at a big brand, a household name, is that we find that oftentimes brands are overemphasizing or spending a lot of time focused on brand, which is important, no doubt, but they're not looking enough at the digital strategy. And you'll see why throughout this presentation, why that starts to become a loss actually, because while the brand's important, the digital strategy is what couples with it to really help brands win online.
Yeah, that's a great point.
John, you can take it away.
All right, we'll do. Let's see here. We're going to switch over to our presentation. See if we can do this. There we go. Do this. So you can see us. Hello.
Awesome.
Awesome, guys. All right. So yeah, so like Alexa said, we're going to be talking about Allbirds. We're going to do a site teardown is what we call it. We're going to kind of break it down, really help teach you guys and by studying another site, being real world about this. So my name's John McKusick. I'm the CEO and one of the founders here at NextLeft, and super excited to present some of this geeky stuff to you guys.
Nerd out.
we're gonna nerd out here for the next 25 minutes. So success. This is what we call our pillars of success here at NextLeft. Number 1 is accessibility. Number 2 is relevance. 3, trust. And these are really our focus here is going to be SEO. The reason we're focusing on SEO is A, we're very good at it. B, 50% of web traffic is SEO, so search engines. So it does include paid as well. But SEO is a big chunk of that. So super important to generate more sales, super important to generate traffic. And ultimately, our goal in going through this is to teach you guys how to increase your direct-to-consumer sales online. Cool. So number 1, accessibility. So setting the technical foundation. So a lot of times this is called technical SEO. So we'll dig in on this a little bit.
And a quick disclaimer. So the technical side of SEO is real techie, real nerdy. For those of us that are not techie, bear with us because it is in depth. There's a lot of information here. And as we go through the other 2 stages, they're going to become a lot more digestible, I think. So if you're not a techie person, there's still a lot of valuable information later on.
Right, and also we're not really necessarily using advanced tools for this. This is scratching the surface. We definitely dig deeper on any of our clients with this, but a lot of these tools are out there. A lot of it's just Google, like looking things up, and Google's pretty powerful here for seeing what's really going on. So here's an example. So for Allbirds, Google is crawling 539 pages of Allbirds site. Google or Allbirds sitemap, so you can find their sitemap.xml. There's 471 pages indexed, and so this is what we call over indexation. Shopify is actually, this is a very common problem or not necessarily a problem, but just something how Shopify is set up, and it's really around making Shopify more usable as you're using the website, so you can click on different variables. So here's, for example, is how Shopify does is where you click on a size or a color. it's actually running a parameter in the URL, which is getting crawled by Google. And so that's where the over indexation is coming from. So here's an example. If we type size with this, in URL, we're seeing Google indexing the size parameters. So the nice thing about this is there's a tool in Google Search Console where you can basically go and tell it to ignore the URL parameters, and then you wouldn't have that over indexation. So there's one actionable insight. And again, this is the technical stuff. This is one piece of everything here. So every pillar is super important. So number 2, URL handling, another big one. Here is a link to Allbirds. This is actually their kids shoe line, Small Birds. A link from the New Yorker.
And I love that name, by the way, Small Birds.
It's a good name. So, and New Yorker is a great publication, super high authority. This is one of those 922 backlinks linking to a page that's no longer on Allbirds' site, which is a huge loss. And so over 900 of these is a big deal. So basically we go in, fix we can either do redirects or actually reach out to these individual publishers to fix their links.
And we all know as users too, that can be frustrating when you're looking for a product or you're doing research, whatever it is, and you're trying to get to a site and you hit a 404 page. I'm just going to abandon and go find something else at that point. And so it's not good for users, right?
Yeah.
And it's not good for sales. So that's something that, again, is a quick fix on the technical side that really can make a huge improvement.
Exactly. Another one, which is green checkbox here for URL handling. This is basically how URLs are redirected from the HTTP, so the non-secure version, all the way down to the actual URL, which here for Allbirds is HTTPS www.allbirds.com. So this is perfect. A lot of times we'll see a double hop where we'll see multiple redirects. So it would go from HTTP to HTTPS without the www, and then it would hop all the way down here. So that's basically not a good signal to Google, and it can actually lose authority and have some issues there. Another quick tech win on URL handling.
Absolutely.
All right, another one which is unique for sites that are in multiple countries.
Yep.
And so here is an example. So basically the direction Allbirds is taken is having sites that are different URLs. So here's allbirds.com, and then their Europe site is allbirds.eu. And so it's a little confusing, right? For the Google search, very similar, and it sees it as 2 separate sites, even though they're in different countries. So we'd want to make sure there's actually a code that we can add to the pages called hreflang, which help basically make it clear what that these sites are the same or similar, but they're for different countries, different languages. You can actually do these things dynamically as well to handle different currencies and things like that. And then the classic, comes up a lot for SEO.
Loading.
A lot of SEO guys talk about page speed, and page speed's super important for usability. Obviously, it's definitely a ranking factor. And here we see Google is actually a mobile first index now, since 70%, I think the number is of web traffic is mobile. And so only a 13 out of 100 is somewhere definitely room for improvement. So after digging into that, we saw that there's some errors here, like removing unused JavaScript. So then it's like, well, what is the JavaScript on the page? And here there's actually a lot of third-party tracking codes, because there's a lot of marketing going on a big site like this. Yep. And so basically there's potential for caching some of those tracking codes, going and cleaning house, taking some of those old tracking codes away that you don't need anymore. Potentially use Google Tag Manager as well to help kind of consolidate some of those tracking codes.
The best thing about technical too, I think, is if you know what to look for, it's quick fixes, right? Yeah. Like it's knowing what to look for and being able to go in and have those experts that can go in and do it right. Yep. That it makes drastic improvements to the site. So
absolutely. And so the next big one is relevance, which a lot of people call this on-page SEO. And also this is part of keyword research. So this is basically sending clear signals to both Google as well as your users of what you want these pages to show up for in search results. So we thought it'd be fun to do a little battle between Allbirds and Toms on this one.
Ding, 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 ding.
Who's going to win? So Allbirds, this is basically the homepage of each site. And so Allbirds, or first off, page title and heading titles are your strongest signals to what the site should rank for. And so we want to make sure that there's keywords in there that are keywords you want to rank for. So Allbirds is sustainable shoes, the most comfortable shoes in the world, which is awesome from a branding and even a keyword, and then Allbirds at the end. And then Tom's has their brand right up front, Tom's official site. We're in business to improve lives. And so awesome for branding, not so good for the keyword side. No word about shoes. There's definitely some issues here. And then when we start looking down on Tom's for on the heading 1, not really any keywords as well. Heading 2 is also pretty weak. When we go back to Allbirds, we're seeing that their heading 1 is more of a brand heading, but the heading 2s are excellent. They reinforce that the site's about shoes, which is good. And then those will link you deeper into the site. And so definitely we give a gold star for Allbirds on this battle. Good job.
This time.
This time, but we have another one. Yeah. So number 2 here is another example of that for navigation. And this is another signal, right, for relevance saying is what's on the site. So Allbirds, the link to men's shoes, which is actually, we use that as an example because that's the highest search volume keyword is men's shoes. It's even higher than women's shoes, which is actually very surprising.
I was surprised at first, but with the sneaker game out there, I'm actually not too surprised.
Yeah, maybe sneakers.
People are crazy about their sneaks.
True. I don't have any Jordans, but all right. So anyway, so we scroll. We have to get to the men's shoes page. We have to scroll down to the footer on Allbirds site where it's like if we click this men's button here, it actually takes to sub menu and there's no link to the actual total men's shoes page. Whereas Tom's right there at the header. Men's shoes is right off that link, which is good job. Gold star. All right. Authority, my favorite part. This is actually really interesting. So we'll talk through this a little bit. Authority is basically the signal. You want to?
Sure.
All right.
This is my bit.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, what'd you do?
So authority, the way that I've learned about authority is that it's essentially looking at referring domains. So anytime we come in contact with the site and we do our initial research, we're looking at how much link equity and how the referring domains are showing up within our platforms. So I'll give you an example here, looking at the competitor of Tom's versus Allbirds, right? So the links that are attached or referencing each of their sites, if Allbirds has 5 links and then Tom's has 5 links, but Allbirds is linking from a legitimate brand and Tom's is not, or a brand that is less well known, has less link equity, for example, not all links are created equal. So even if they have the same amount of links, each link carries its own weight. So what we do on authority is we're taking a look at how much link value do they have that's telling Google that they are the expert and they are the authority in whatever they're selling or talking about. And then from there, we're also doing outreach, improving content, making sure that we're building up that authority in any way that we can.
So earlier we saw the New Yorker example. That would be a great example of a high authority link to the site. So it's looking here, we have Allbirds at 4,890 referring domains, which is individual websites linking to Allbirds. We have this Shoe Carnival down here, which is 3,668. And what's interesting with Shoe Carnival as we go over here, this is the number of keywords that Shoe Carnival ranks for, over 500,000, which compared to only 50,000 keywords or 57,000 keywords for Allbirds. And then when we look at traffic, it's correlated, right? More keywords equals more traffic. 741,000 visits versus 174,000.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting because it's actually a lower authority. This is very unusual. Usually you see the higher authority ones are going to have more traffic. So there's definitely Shoe Carnival has done something correct, and we're going to look and dig into that a little bit more and see what we can uncover. And then Merrill shoes, kind of similar, high traffic, definitely more authority. And then Tom's, which we did the battle with there, big time authority, 26,000 referring domains. But still pretty, like only 518,000. So there's probably a lot of room for Tom's to improve as well. But the clear winner here is Zappos, which we all know for as a shoe reseller. And then with over 6,400,000 visits per month. This is all monthly traffic numbers. So big time traffic on Zappos. And that just shows how massive the opportunity is in on the search engines for how much search volume is going on.
Right. Pretty
cool. All right, so that brings us to that opportunity, right? How do we 5x the traffic and sales? And I think obviously if you have your own site, this can be very relatable. Every site's unique, as we were seeing here with Allbirds. So here, again, 51,000 keywords, 15,000 visits per month on Allbirds. After digging through, like, well, where are those visits coming from? The majority, 97%, were coming from brand. which is awesome to have that kind of brand to drive that kind of traffic is absolutely amazing.
For sure.
But only 3% non-brand.
But this is exactly what we're talking about here is that that investment and priority of brand, right? Which is super important. As we can see right here, 97% of the search is coming from looking up the brand and they're ranking for those branding keywords. But the opportunity that's missed is what we're emphasizing here for non-branded keywords. There's clearly a discrepancy there where if you had both a solid brand and a solid digital strategy, the two combined, you're ultimately winning online and you can compete with a Zappos, for example.
Yep, exactly. So kind of looking at that Shoe Carnival example, there with what keywords are they ranking for, right? So they have pages on their site, right, is ranking for the word shoe, which is very non-branded, right? And then other things like women's shoes, women's boots. We have men's shoes down here with 57,000 searches. These are monthly searches. Yeah. So 57,000 people every month type in men's shoes. And then different variants and more specifics. And this is just this little list, about 20 keywords out of 568,000 keywords. Yep. So big opportunity, really high search volume keywords, and to be able to get these clicks for free compared to paying AdWords all the time. It's a big win. So here's an example for shoe stores, with them ranked number 5 on shoe stores. Cool. All right, Merrill. This is probably a closer example. This is their direct to consumer. They are competing against those resellers online for these rankings. So some of their big wins: waterproof shoes, tactical shoes, and some of these may not relate to Allbirds, but still some great keywords and some that do relate. So the example we pulled out was the waterproof shoes. Yep. So I may be getting retargeted when we're pulling the screenshot. So yeah, this is a great ad, great pay per click ad placement. But they're paying per click on these with Allbirds. If you go down here a little, number 2 position is Merrill shoes, winning just right under Amazon. Above those, some resellers above REI and Zappos. Super impressive position. And we can see why. It's not super complicated here, where there's a page on their site around listing all their men's waterproof shoes and boots. Right. And so everything aligns here well too. We see the title tag, men's waterproof shoes and boots, and the H1 tag being the same. Right. Clear signal, super strong signal of relevance to waterproof shoes. And then also Allbirds does have some water resistant shoes as well. So I think it's a relevant keyword. All right, we're back.
We are. So folks, we realize that we still have about 8 more minutes. So before the next speaker pops on, we figure if you have any questions, we can go ahead and answer those in real time.
Yep. So I see one question here. Aren't all Shopify stores SEO optimized? That's an awesome question. And absolutely, Shopify stores have a level of SEO optimization. I think there's a lot more to the technical aspect. We talked a little bit on technical, and there's still even things to fix technically there, like we explained on the parameters. But they're definitely optimized to like kind of the base level. The next level of that, right, is now it's content. And that's why we say we do content marketing, because ultimately the next part is like, well, what do we want to be on the site that's useful, that's entertaining, that's newsworthy, things that are going to bring people back and have a great user experience, as well as promoting that content. So getting out there, sharing it with different news outlets or sharing it with other webmasters and saying, hey, turning you into an authority around a specific topic. So I think as we're kind of looking at Allbirds, like there's things beyond, right, shoes, right? They're definitely make an amazing product, but there's a lot more, right, around them being a B corporation, them doing social good, being sustainable. Those are all things that help with brand, but also do have a really big effect on SEO and gaining rankings there as well.
And just so that you know, if you are on the Shopify platform or considering it and you want to learn a little bit more about how to optimize with SEO, we will have an SEO for Shopify guide coming out shortly. So if you visit our website, nextleft.com/eCommerce day, we will go ahead and email you that copy as well.
Awesome. So we still have 40 of you here. 39.
Yeah.
Any other questions? It looks like there was a comment here around URL with Dylan. A lot of easy wins around URL handling. Yep, for sure. It's not too technical. It's a quick quick check to make sure your URLs and your HTTPS, your security certificates are being handled properly. Yeah, definitely a good point there. We see it all the time. Even another, like further, if you want to take it one step further, is looking at subdomains for your site. So we see that too, where a lot of times staging URLs and things like that are actually being indexed. So then sites become duplicated online, which is a really confusing thing for people in Google.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have here, I would like to know the answer to the same question. Is there a way to filter by sustainably good and social good brands? Good question.
That's a great question. So we personally knew of Allbirds, and we've done our own research on brands that we want to work with, and Allbirds is one of those brands. But that being said, I think a great resource is to look into B Corporations. There's a B Corporations website that you can take a look and do your own research and being able to pull up which brands are associated with B Corp. Certainly not all brands that are doing social good are B Corporation certified, but there's a good majority of awesome brands there.
Yep, definitely. So obviously, Googling that, I'm sure there's a list out there. I can
Sure.
almost guarantee based on whatever you're searching for, there's been an article written about that. YouTube's a good place to look to. And so here's another great, Steve Clift. Does B2B SEO differ much from B2C? It does a little bit. The biggest difference, obviously, are the keywords. Search volumes on B2B are often much lower, but usually the visitor is the value per visitor is much higher, depending on what you're selling on the B2B side. Software as service, we see really high search volumes. So we do have several enterprise kind of SaaS companies that we work with. And definitely there are some larger search volumes, especially around like CRM and any kind of like digital asset management and those kind of keywords. So it's from a tactical level, I'd say it's pretty much the same from a keyword level, but from content level, it's very different.
Definitely. And that's why at our agency, we have a pod structure. We call it our pods, where we have a technical person, a nerd, and then we have a client support person. And we have specific pods for specific verticals or specific areas, if you will. So we have a B2B pod, we have a B2C pod, simply because they're in that wavelength of content day in, day out. And it's really helpful to just be in alignment with what's happening in that ecosphere.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really I think the question too is like, it's every company is different, right? No matter what they're doing, they have their own challenges. Definitely. And yeah, being able to do that is good. But yeah, great question.
Thanks, Stephen.
There's definitely more to dig into that one because it's a big question as well.
It is, and I think we have one more too from Melissa.
All right. So top 3 things to include in my SEO listing preview. So I'm assuming when you say SEO listing preview, you mean the search result. So when you see the search result within the results. And so definitely you want to include keywords you want to rank for. Sometimes you need to be realistic. So depending on how authoritative and how many referring domains basically you have, how realistic are those keywords? So it may not make sense for the shoe example to rank for men's shoes, but having something that's maybe a little more niche as you're starting out, so you can actually start ranking and move in the top 1 through 3 position, which we call hyper traffic. Yeah. Like you want to get some of those hyper traffic wins. Also, including in your title tag. So that first blue line that you're going to click is usually your title tag. Usually having your brand at the end is a good idea because you're going to rank for your brand, because usually your brand is your URL. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure that there are keywords in there that you want to rank for in your title tag. Totally. And then another thing on that SEO listing is to also include brand. Include, similar to how you write maybe a paid ad, where it does garner like a click-through rate, because click-through rate is a part of the algorithm, is like how often are people clicking on these results. And so having things that maybe have a call to action or something that will get people to look. I've seen emojis in there, which definitely helps. Doesn't always get included, but can help click-through rate as well. So definitely. Great question.
And we have another question. Oh,
Abdulaziz. All right, okay. We're wrapping up. Last question. We have 30 seconds. We're getting booted here. Can you guys optimize stores in different languages? Absolutely. And we will. We're actually going to post this on our YouTube channel. So we just started a YouTube channel on NextLeft. Arabic's going to be challenging. Since with the characters, but we could definitely talk about it.
Definitely.
I'd be happy to kind of talk through some of the sites we've done. Maybe we can find someone to guide that speaks Arabic to help point them in the right direction. So good question.
Great.
Yep.
Follow us on YouTube, you guys. We're also on social media, and we'll continue sending resources your way. Enjoy the event.